I'm JJ Perez with Inside Runner Sports. Greg Luca, San Antonio Express News. We're out at UTSA football practice Wednesday following the last practice this week for the Roadrunners on their bye week. Greg, it's been a heck of a week for the Roadrunners so far. I think so. You know, Frank Harris, his status is uncertain coming off the injury at North Texas. And what's the vibe you've picked up the last few days out here?
You know, I think it would be impossible for them to not be down somewhat after such a big loss in a game that they looked at as an important game to start conference play. But they're saying all the right things about kind of trying to keep moving forward and not being deterred and fighting through adversity and all this stuff you always hear. So that's encouraging. But, I mean, I think they were also good enough to admit that on Sunday and Monday it was a pretty rough time for them, too. Just because, you had those expectations and it did not go the way you wanted. So I don't know, I think they're doing okay, I guess. About as good as you could expect, all things considered, from a mental standpoint. I
mean, the big question is going to be what happens at quarterback for UTEP. That's obviously the biggest game of the year, almost a must-win if UTSA wants to salvage this season in any kind. And it feels like Lowell's going to be the guy.
Is that the feeling you get?
I think that's the feeling I get. They apparently they scrimmaged today. He didn't really participate in the scrimmage.
They didn't think he needed it. I don't know.
And I apparently had a good day of practice. So what are your thoughts on Lowell?
Well, on the quarterback situation in general, I wouldn't be so sure Frank Harris isn't going to play. You might know something I don't, but last week he had a similar injury. You know, he came out and they put him right back in the game, and then they were willing to give it a whirl against North Texas. So they might be in the same spot where they say, well, okay, he's limited and could be trouble if he takes a hit there, but let's call the offense differently and let's have him in the game. It's possible, I think. But if it's Lowell, he certainly showed some things. I mean, he's got a strong arm, big guy, can run a little bit, needs to work on the accuracy quite a bit, I think. I still want to kind of rewatch that game because it was so out of hand that we were thinking about Frank Harris's injury and getting a head start on writing and all that stuff. So I don't have a great evaluation of him, but I think there's certainly some signs of promise. And I forgot he's only a sophomore too. He's got a lot of time to grow.
Yeah, so if Frank Harris is not ready, it seems like maybe Lowell and maybe even Jordan Weeks and Cordell, they're going to get everybody ready, I think.
I'm honestly a little surprised Cordell hasn't been talked about more. Not that he was a world beater last season, but I thought there were times where he played pretty well. Like, for example, against UTEP or against Texas State. He put some pretty good games together, and I think if you give him that kind of a performance at quarterback this year, with Frank out, they would take that. Now, if he's had some issues with not being able to take all the first team reps or has struggled with moving into a different role after starting, I don't know. But it's something to consider.
One of the bigger things I took away from the North Texas game was the play of the defensive line and how much rushing yards they gave up. And maybe it wasn't all on the defensive line, but that was kind of disappointing.
Yeah, you had high expectations for that group. I still think of them more as pass rushers than run stuffers. Although they did do pretty well against Army in spurts. And even against North Texas in the first quarter, they got a couple stops. But then after that, the floodgates were just totally open. Turnovers doesn't help that. But there's really not a whole lot of excuses you can make for them to give up 10 yards a carry to some of these guys or whatever it was. So, yeah, certainly an area that they're going to want to, I don't even know if it's focused on improving. I think they just need to play better because they have it in them to play better than that. That's not, I don't know if that's really a trend through the season as much as just Baylor and North Texas.
And then
because against Incarnate Word they were fine, and against Army they were pretty good too.
They were real good against Army. So along those lines, or the missed tackles, you asked few players today about the missed tackles, and apparently they were getting physical out here today.
A little bit, I don't know how different that is from a normal week. They made it sound like there's always one day or maybe a couple periods where they go to that. But I mean, if I was Frank Wilson, I think we'd be doing a lot more of that. Just because you have the bye week to recover, and clearly they need some work on it. I mean, it's been really every game this season. I mean, against Incarnate Word it didn't hurt them as much, but every game this season they've had issues where either kind of taking questionable angles or not wrapping up or getting guys to the ground, and you can't have that throughout the rest of the season. I mean, it turns 2-yard plays into 6-yard plays, which keeps the chains moving and that kind of stuff. It's just like something that it's very fundamental, but they clearly don't have it down at this point.
Gonna put you on the spot here. Is UTEP a must-win game for UTSA to salvage this season?
Well, here's the thing. If they win, what happens? And if they lose, how is it any different? They're not going to win the league anyway. They're not going to have a. They're not going to a bowl game.
I mean, Frank Wilson has mentioned it twice this week about the 2016 season and how they were able to put a run together. And obviously, that's a clearly a different squad than it was back then. But that's kind of what their mindset is.
I think beating UTEP would be a good first step. But we're talking about the difference. It could end up being the difference between a 3-win team and a 4-win team or a 2-win team. Like, how much is it really? And I think your coaching situation is questionable either way. I think that's something that's going to be considered under any of those outcomes, and I think your season is considered a disappointment either way too. So yeah, certainly you want to win that game. You want to win every game, but I don't think if they win, I don't think it's like a huge turning point, or I don't think it's guaranteed to launch them to anything too much better unless they play astronomically better. That would be the big thing.
And without...
what do you think? Do you think it's a must-win?
I think it is, but it depends if Frank Harris is playing. I think that changes so much of
like the expectations.
Right, the expectations, and what is he going to be continually, being focused on this arm injury all season? Is it going to be something that lingers? Are they going to have to go to Lowell?
Yeah.
I mean, Frank Wilson said they may play 2 quarterbacks.
That'd be insane.
Intentionally.
Yeah.
So
they've kind of done that already, though.
Yeah.
I guess when they had Frank and Lowell came in on his sub packages. I don't know if that is what he means.
Yeah.
But they've sort of shown a little bit of that already.
Yeah. I just think from an overall program standpoint, a lot of the future of this program will be decided in these next 2 or 3 games with whoever's at the helm.
Yeah. I think they had to get to 5 wins, and I think it's going to be hard the way they've played so far. So. They'd be a good one to start. It could get you on that, because if you can beat UTEP and you can beat Rice, now you just got to win 2 of 7?
Yeah.
6 or however many's left.
Yeah.
To get to 5 and 7.
Minus
which
A&M,
is pretty good.
Really count, so,
yeah, true. But it's just it feels like the schedule is like. It's weird to say because it feels like Conference USA is maybe weaker than some people thought, but also the schedule in some ways is harder than other people thought.
Yeah.
Because like UTEP might be a little better than people expected. Rice might be a little better than people
seems
expected.
A lot better than what people expected.
And the other game I gave them a decent shot in was going to Old Dominion, which seems really hard now.
Yeah, I think
so. They don't have any gimmies. It doesn't feel like.
I think probably that UAB game at home is the one I have circled,
too.
And they are pretty good. So
I mean that's not a gimme by any means.
Yeah, none of them are. I don't think at this point.
And that's the set, because like you have some gimme losses, but you don't have any gimme wins. That's a tough spot to be in.
Yeah, so it's uphill climb. I feel like the season's at a crossroads, or maybe we've already gone past that point. You only have. I guess there's still 7 games left.
The funny thing is, even if I thought they were having a good year, they could still be 1-3. But it's just how bad they've looked. Like to be not competitive at all against North Texas. And North Texas is a good team, but it's that thing where it's a rivalry game and they always play them close. You would think you could at least compete in that game.
Yeah.
So it's just the way they've looked that is concerning. But in terms of if they come out after the bye week like a totally different team, they could still accomplish any goals that I would have thought were reasonable. I know some people probably aimed higher.
Yeah.
But I don't think they were winning any of these 3 games. They just played regardless.
Right.
So if they look as good as they had the potential to look coming into the season, starting against UTEP, maybe they can still go 5 and 7.
Yeah.
And some people still be disappointed, but for me, that's a good year for them. I think that's a step forward.
Yep. What are you going to do with your bye week? Sweet. That's what I'm doing.
Incarnate Word's playing.
Yeah.
InsideRunnerSports.com. JJ will be there.
Never. Nope.
No dice? All right.
Well, that'll wrap it up here from UTSA's bye week. We'll be back next week as UTSA hosts or takes on UTEP in El Paso. Greg Luca, San Antonio Express News, JJ Perez, Inside Runner Sports. Thanks for watching.